You know, there's a force you're using at this very second. It's keeping you in your chair, it's letting you hold your phone, it's what stops cars at a red light. But what exactly is it? Well, today we're diving deep into friction, the invisible and absolutely essential force that holds our entire world together.
But before we get into all the physics and the definitions, let's start this off with a bit of a mystery. It's something that plays out in cartoons all the time and, let's be honest, sometimes in real life. We're going to look at a few seemingly random events that all point to one single, unseen culprit. You've all seen this, right? The classic banana peel slip. It's a comedy goldmine, but have you ever really stopped to think about what's physically happening? Why does this one simple slippery thing cause such a complete and total loss of control? In that split second, what critical force just vanishes?
And it's not just banana peels. Think about this. Why does a ball you roll across the floor always slow down and eventually stop? Or why does a freshly mopped floor suddenly feel like you're walking on an ice rink? The answer to all of these questions, well, it points to the exact same mysterious force.
So, it's time to unmask our culprit. Let's pull back the curtain and finally reveal the invisible force that's behind all of these everyday moments.
And here it is. The force is called friction. Now, the simple definition is it's a force that opposes motion whenever two surfaces are touching. But the key thing, the most important thing to remember is this. Friction always pushes back.
And that's what makes friction so interesting, right? It's purely reactive. It doesn't just push in one direction. If you push a book to the right, friction pushes to the left. If you try and slide it left, friction immediately pushes to the right. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It only ever exists to fight against the direction of motion.
So really, it's like a constant tug of war. Every time you push something, your applied force is trying to get it moving, while the force of friction is right there, pushing back, trying to keep things exactly as they are.
So what's actually causing this resistance? Well, if you could zoom in with a superpowered microscope on any surface, even something that looks perfectly smooth, like glass, you'd see it's actually a rugged landscape of tiny little hills and valleys. When two of these surfaces try to slide past each other, all those little peaks and valleys snag and interlock. Then you add in some molecular stickiness that's kind of pulling the surfaces together, and that combined resistance, that's what we feel as friction. Let's actually see this play out. Imagine you're trying to push a really heavy box across the floor. You give it a small push, nothing. It doesn't budge. That's something called static friction pushing back with the exact same force. So you push a little harder, and static friction pushes harder right back at you. It perfectly matches your force. But then you give it one big shove, and suddenly it breaks free. You've overcome the limit. And here's the interesting part. You'll notice it's actually easier to keep it sliding than it was to get it started in the first place.
This little story reveals the two main types of friction we deal with. That stubborn initial resistance you had to overcome, that's static friction. And the slightly weaker force that's still there once the box is moving, that's sliding friction. So, the big takeaway here is that it's always harder to get something started from a dead stop than it is to keep it going.
Okay, so all this pushing back, all this resisting motion, it kind of makes friction sound like the villain of the story, doesn't it? Like it's just this constant obstacle. But the truth is, it's a lot more complicated than that. Friction is really our best frenemy.
I mean, just look at the two sides of this coin. On the friend's side, friction is what lets us walk, what lets us write with a pencil, how our car brakes work. It even holds the nails in our walls. Without it, our world would literally fall apart. But then there's the foe side. It's what wears out our shoes and tires, it grinds down parts and machines, it wastes tons of energy as heat, and yeah, it's what makes moving heavy furniture such a pain. It's both absolutely essential and a constant problem.
Here is a perfect example of friction being the foe. This constant rubbing is, at its core, a destructive force. It's the reason the soles of your favorite sneakers eventually get holes in them, why car tires go bald, and how stone steps can get worn down over centuries of people walking on them.
And here's a downside you can literally feel for yourself right now. Go ahead, rub your palms together, fast. Feel that? That warmth is friction in action, converting the energy of your motion into thermal energy, or heat. Now that's great on a cold day, but inside a car engine or your computer, that very same effect creates a ton of wasted heat that can cause critical parts to overheat and fail.
So, since we can't just get rid of this frenemy, we've had to get incredibly clever at taming it. Over time, we've figured out how to basically turn the dial on friction, cranking it up when we need it, and dialing it way down when we don't. Because sometimes, believe it or not, we need more friction, not less.
The grooves on the bottom of your shoes, they aren't just for decoration. They're designed to maximize friction for better grip. Same deal with tire treads. They increase friction with the road so you have more control, especially when it's wet. And brake pads, their entire job is to create an immense amount of friction to safely stop a 2-ton vehicle. But let's be real, most of the time we're trying to reduce it. We use lubricants like oil and grease to create a super thin, slippery layer between moving parts so they don't grind each other to dust. We polish surfaces to make them as smooth as possible, getting rid of those microscopic hills and valleys. And most brilliantly of all, we invented the wheel. This simple idea right here is probably one of the most important discoveries in all of human history. The realization that it is always easier to roll something than it is to slide it. And why is that? It's because the force of what we call rolling friction is just dramatically weaker than sliding friction. This little thing is a ball bearing, and it's the perfect example of that rolling principle put to work. You'll find these inside everything from skateboard wheels to computer fans. These tiny metal spheres let parts roll past each other instead of grinding against each other. It's such a simple, ingenious way to swap out that strong, nasty sliding friction for much weaker rolling friction, making all our machines way more efficient.
Now, friction doesn't just happen between solid objects. Anytime something moves through a fluid, and by fluid I mean a liquid like water or even a gas like air, it also feels a frictional force. We just give it a different name. We call it drag.
And of course, we've engineered some really clever ways to fight drag too. Just think about the sleek, pointed nose of a fighter jet or the smooth, curved hull of a ship. These streamlined shapes aren't an accident. They're designed to let the air or water flow past with as little resistance as possible. That reduces drag, which saves fuel and allows for incredible speeds.
So, we've seen how friction can be a huge problem, right? It causes wear and tear, it wastes energy, it might even be tempting to wish it would just go away. But what would a world without our little frenemy actually look like?
Honestly, it would be pure chaos. You wouldn't be able to take a single step. Your feet would just slip out from under you. You couldn't pick up a glass of water. It would slide right through your fingers. Cars would be useless. Their wheels would just spin forever and their brakes would do nothing. Every knot you've ever tied would instantly unravel. And maybe the most terrifying part, nails and screws wouldn't hold anything together, meaning every building, every bridge, everything would just collapse.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Forget a whole world without friction. Just imagine one single second. If friction were to completely vanish right now, what do you think would happen to you? It's a force we're constantly fighting against, but it's also a force we absolutely cannot live without.